All right, welcome back, everyone. This is the first ever Zoom episode that we're doing for the podcast. Um, Mohammed is from Kingston, and he is a local real estate agent there, who I've had the pleasure of working with and speaking with quite often over the past few months. But the reason why I wanted to bring you on, Mohammed, was to explain to our audience about your market. I've been focusing a lot on guests that are local in Toronto, GTA, but I want to kind of get a perspective from your market, especially since I've been in Kingston for quite a while in terms of investing and seeing properties up there. But speaking to a realtor like yourself who lives there, who works there, would be amazing to kind of hear your perspective. So I'm going to stop blabbering on, but if you can introduce yourself and tell our audience who you are and where you're working and how you got started into the industry.
Definitely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on, Essen. It's a pleasure to finally be on. Thank you for having me. But yeah, a little bit about my background. My name is Mohammed. I started selling real estate about 2 years ago full time. We've been investing for a while now, and my father back home actually was a developer. So back home for us is Karachi, Pakistan. So we've kind of always been around real estate. Now, I obviously went to college, got my degree in finance, made the family happy, worked in corporate for a year, and now I'm here selling real estate. So that's a little bit about me. But why Kingston? I believe Kingston has always been a very stable market and rents have always gone up here. So you can get a property here for probably half the price that you would in Toronto and actually cash flow here. And Kingston continues to be a good city to invest in. So that's why Kingston, I believe, continues to be a good investment.
Yeah, and I remember my first investment property was in Kingston, Ontario. So this is before you and I met. This was back in 2020, I think. So this is just like when COVID had started, right?
Hmm.
It was like midsummer, and I was showing a client some properties over there because he's the one that actually introduced me to Kingston. Um, and I'm driving by the sales center, and I had no intention of buying a property there. And I popped in, and I asked the sales rep, I'm like, "Hey, what do you have over here?" And I said, like, "We have townhomes going for $396,000." I'm
Tell
like,
me you bought one.
I'm like 390,000. I mean, wait a minute, that's like half the price of Toronto. And yes, we. So I basically called up my brother-in-law, a couple of my friends. I told them about it, and two of us ended up partnering up together. We bought that property
Awesome.
together, and we rented it out for I think 2,000 at the time, and now it's like going for 2,300, and it's cash flowing. So since then, we've done a lot more investments, not just for myself, but for my other investors as well. Um,
Mhm.
and that's what we found. So, I mean, you're living in Kingston. Like, what is it about the city that makes it so prosperous and makes it such a viable opportunity, other than the price itself? What about Kingston, the city?
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, we say Kingston is a bit of a tourist spot. So every summer, we get people who come here, they enjoy the water, they want to go on their boats and whatnot. So you'll get tourists here as well, which really helps the businesses downtown. Aside from that, everything you can access within 15 to 20 minutes in the city of Kingston.
Nice.
So I live about, I don't know, I'd say 18 minutes from downtown, and that's the west end of Kingston. So to get from my house to downtown, you're about 18 minutes, which is not bad at all, right? So I think at the end of the day, having three schools, three big institutions, having three hospitals, having a military base, I don't think there's ever going to be a more stable market, in my opinion.
Right. And I guess that's kind of the reason why rents are also pretty high in demand, right? Because you've got the
Very high.
military base, you've got the hospital, you've got Queen's University, you've got so many things happening. What about like the job industry? What kind of industries does Kingston have? Because that's a question I get a lot from my investors. Like, why should I invest in Kingston? What are the major employers? What kind of jobs are there? Could you provide some insight into that?
Definitely. So I'd say definitely the biggest employers out there would be the hospitals and the institutions. But now we're starting to see a lot of these Amazon warehouse jobs come up as well. If I'm not mistaken, I believe there's a new center opening up in Belleville, which is not too far from here. But what we're now seeing is we see a lot of people live in Kingston and then travel out to other spots. So there's definitely lots of jobs here as well. We're seeing a lot more warehouses open, a lot more companies open up operation here. So you kind of got your retail jobs, your professional jobs, your military jobs, lots of opportunities.
Right. Yeah, and that's why I think it makes it pretty stable. Like even a few of my clients who have properties in Kingston, like they live in Toronto. The good thing is that it's not too far from Toronto, right? Or even
Not at
Ottawa, for
all.
example. So one of the main objections that I usually get is, well, how am I going to manage a property that far? But I mean, Kingston is not far. Nowadays,
Not
like
at all.
I'm in Kingston once a month almost. So that 2.5 hour drive is nothing. You put on a podcast and you're good to go, man. So
And you're
it's
there. No, and that's
you're
that's
there,
the
yeah.
beauty of it too, right? Like you're right in the middle of Ottawa, I guess Montreal as well, and
Yeah,
Toronto. So you could go either way and hit a big major city. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is if you're looking to invest, it's getting more and more difficult to be in
right.
the GTA to invest into these homes and actually cash flow, especially with these interest rates. So
Yeah,
Kingston continues to be a good spot to
right.
be.
So a lot of us who have bought in Kingston, like many of us have single family homes or townhomes. I have seen you post on social media quite a bit about like illegal duplexes or triplexes. How's that market over there, and what are you looking at in terms of the price, the investment, and then also the rent, and how are you cash flowing on those properties?
Definitely. So the best part about working with obviously us is we have a really good planner on board. We have good contractors that we work with. So from A to Z, we kind of lead you from taking a single family home and converting it within hopefully 4 to 5 months, depending on the work needed.
Nice.
So that's a lot of what we're doing. The best part is we can figure out what properties can be duplexed or triplexed and then assist our clients in purchasing those. Now, another good thing about that is after doing all the renovations, getting it rented, getting their most of their money out, they can go and buy and do that again. So the BRRRR method, we're seeing a lot of our clients do that here. When it comes to rents, I can let you know right now. I just saw 1 bedroom basement apartment go up for 1575.
Oh wow.
So a 2 bedroom I think was about 1800 if I'm not mistaken. But rents are continuing to skyrocket.
Yeah. And do you see that just going like increasing as years go by? Is it just because of people moving into Kingston? And I mean, you have the school there, right? I guess that's one of the main major reasons too.
Yeah, I think, well, we get lots of students for Queens and St. Lawrence,
Yeah,
but obviously we have RMC here as well, the Royal Military College.
right.
It just comes down to housing. I believe our vacancy rate's at 1.2%, which is the
Yeah.
second lowest in
Mhm.
Canada.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just very, very hard to find a spot here. I know a new building just went up and their 1 bedroom rents are about $1,800.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
What are some of the neighborhoods and pockets that you recommend in Kingston? So I know there's some newer areas. Like when I first came into Kingston, I came into this area, which is, I guess, right in the beginning, Woodhaven, I believe, right?
Yes. So I
Um,
used to live there.
oh, you lived there? Okay, yeah,
I
that's
used to
like
live there.
it's an amazing residential neighborhood. It looks like it's very brand new, but like like that. What are some other areas in Kingston that you'd recommend for people to invest in?
Yeah. So like what I always tell my clients is it depends what their goals are. Do
Right,
they want to stick to single family homes? Do they want to buy in older spots and then be in a spot where they can convert it? Because at the end of the day, if that's what they're looking to do, we want to send them into the right zoned areas
right,
so they don't get stuck with a property that they can't end up converting. Now, we've seen that happen a couple times with clients who purchased, obviously with people who didn't know the zoning here, but it all comes down to what their goals and aspirations are, right? So Woodhaven continues to be a good spot for people looking for single family homes. A lot of those homes can be converted, and actually, a couple of those homes were purpose built as well. So you'll find semis and some detached there with 2 units. However, those prices are still fairly high. You'll probably get a semi 2 units for about 700K. However, if you go into another area, say you're either in the Heights or LaSalle Park, or say Strathcona Park, you'll probably get something that needs work under 400, 450, do the work, convert it, and then get most of your money out as well. And rents, I'd say all across the city are fairly similar.
right. And on the east side of Kingston, across the river, I forget the name of that area. Um,
We just call it the East End, but we have like our Cataraqui River East, our
Right, right.
Riverview.
Yes,
Hmm.
Riverview. That's the one, Riverview.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, like whenever I come to Kingston, that's my favorite place. Just kind of really peaceful, and it's by the water as well. Um, my buddy has a property up there as well in Riverview. But that area I like a lot. I think it's just a more mature neighborhood too, right? Or some of the
Definitely, definitely, and it's closer to the military base. So you'll get a lot of military clients to rent there. But once again, it just comes down to what they want, right? Like, do they want a home just for appreciation, and they don't mind kind of covering the difference in their mortgage
yeah,
costs and rent?
right.
But a lot of what we're advising our clients is just buy a property that either needs work or is ready to go if you don't want to do the work,
Yeah,
and at least break even if that.
right. Gotcha. So right now we're in February, the beginning of February. In Toronto, the market's picked up quite a bit in the first
Hmm.
couple weeks of January. I've seen sales go up by almost 40% compared to last January. I'm not sure if it's the result of the announcement of interest rates not going up or the anticipation of rates coming down in the future, but we've seen an influx of activity here in our market. How is it in Kingston right now? What are you seeing in terms of average sale price, and are you seeing that same scenario play out in Kingston that we're seeing over here?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a bit before the rate announcements, I think things kind of always quiet down because everyone's kind of anxious. They're sitting on the sidelines wondering what's going to happen. But over the last 2 months, I think things have definitely picked up. Just last month alone, I was in a multiple offer situation where there were 18 offers, right? And for Kingston, that's it's quite a bit. So that property sold, I think, close to 200K over asking, and it was sold firm. So things are starting to pick up. Another property that we were offering on, we're in multiples again. Six offers, went 80K over asking.
Yeah.
So things are still moving quite well here, and I think it's just a price point, right, where people can't afford properties in Toronto. They'll come up here and they can pretty much just buy cash. So things are definitely picking up here as
Are
well.
you seeing a lot of GTA residents move up there or buy there?
Yeah, I mean, we have a few investors who'll come and buy here.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily moving here; they'll just buy here for their investments because for them it just doesn't make sense to buy in Toronto anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to buy an investment property that's, let alone cash flow, but even appreciation now because, for example, like if you buy a condo here, it's going to cost you about $1,000 per square foot. So how much more is that going to
Yeah,
appreciate? I mean, I don't know that it could appreciate in the future, but Kingston seems to be a place where there's still room to appreciate in the future, right?
100%. And I always tell my clients, I'm like, if you're just buying on speculation, don't buy.
Yeah,
Right? At the end of the day, it's a long term game, and
right.
it's always been a long term game. Just the last couple of years, everyone bought, they made quite a bit of money, but what we don't tend to realize is people lost a lot of money too, right? So if we just kind of follow the basics of real estate and bring it back to the basics,
Yeah,
it's very simple.
yeah,
And 20, 25 years from now, I think Kingston average prices obviously will go up.
yeah,
And the thing I always tell my clients is even if it doesn't go up, a property you buy for 600K today, in
yeah,
25 years, if it doesn't go up a single dollar, someone else paid for it. Now you got
yeah,
600K sitting there.
yeah, exactly. Even if you broke
So
even, I mean, you didn't pay the interest on it. You didn't pay the whatever you got from the cat rent. You paid off your expenses, right?
that's it. That's it. And now you have an asset. And the best part I personally think about investing, whether it be in Toronto, GTA, wherever you do invest into real estate, your money doesn't grow on the amount that you put in,
Yep,
right? It grows on the asset value.
right.
So that's just what we kind of try to tell our clients and make sure they make the best investments for
Yeah.
themselves.
What's last couple of questions for you? What do you see in the future in terms of the city of Kingston? Any upcoming projects or infrastructure that's coming up that's going to really, make the city even more in demand?
Yeah, I think a few years ago they were having a hard time letting high rises come into the city of Kingston, especially downtown, just due to the history of the city. What we're seeing now is them allow those high rise buildings. So, although downtown is already fairly busy, I think once these high rises go up, definitely not high rises that we see in Toronto and whatnot, but for Kingston, they would be considered high rises. I
Right.
think we'll continue to see downtown and the city become more vibrant, more busy, definitely more traffic, and I'd say a little more expensive too.
Yeah, I know That's everyone, man.
Yeah, and building costs
Yeah,
haven't come down, right?
let's come
That's
down.
what we're seeing.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Last question for you. In terms of buying pre-construction or resale, is one better than the other, or again, does it come down to your preference in Kingston?
I think it comes down to the specific client and their needs, right? At the end of the day, I've always told my clients when you're buying pre-cons, yeah, you're buying a home, but the most important thing you're buying is time.
Yeah,
So if that's what you need, then go ahead and buy a pre-con. If you don't have your down payment ready, you need about 8 to 10 months to get it ready. Then pre-con might be a good investment. However, if you're looking for something in the resale market to rent out or to convert or just for investment purposes, and you have the money to do so, it might just make sense to do it now because there's a lot of people holding back because of the interest rates, right? So
right.
what happens when the rates go down? Do all these people come back into the market? And then what happens to prices?
Yep.
So
Yeah,
everything is just based on clients and their needs, and we just try to cater to those.
exactly. No, I think our markets are very similar in terms of when they trend up and when they trend down. And Kingston is becoming more and more popular to investors here. It's actually, I was surprised, like, when we discovered Kingston about 4 or 5 years ago, not a lot of people were talking about it. And
Yeah,
even now, like, people don't realize the potential the city has. But now it's finally, people are noticing and they're like, wait, this isn't too far from Toronto. Like, why would I
yeah,
go invest in Calgary when I can invest 2.5 hours away from Toronto and get something that would be very similar in price point and rent out for potentially even more? So I think
that's it.
Kingston is definitely, up and coming for sure.
100%. And the one thing I always, because I've seen a lot of people invest into Calgary, what
Right.
I always like to ask is it now too late? Right?
Mm,
Because it seems to be the way that everyone wants to follow.
yeah.
But I'm like, who are these people renting out to? We
Right.
see all these condos going up. We see all these houses coming up. Is that rental demand there? It
Yeah.
might be, it might not be. I don't operate in that market, but being in Kingston, obviously the price is higher than Calgary, but you're also in Ontario, right?
Yeah.
And you got your schools, you got your institutions, you got your hospitals, and vacancy rates statistically are lower here.
Yeah.
So it just makes more sense to me to be in a city where rents are higher and prices are lower.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mohammed,
Yeah.
where's the best place that people can reach you at on social media? You have a website, email?
Yeah, so I'm usually more active on Instagram. So my Instagram handle is Mo, and then my last name Bhatda, Bhatda. Or they can just text me or call me at 613-970-2041, whatever is easiest. Or they
Perfect.
can reach out to you and then you can put me
There
in
you go.
contact with them.
Yeah, so Mohammed's your guy when it comes to Kingston real estate. If you have any questions or need to buy a property up there, we'll have your contact information in the link below as well. And you can reach out to Mohammed directly. He's an amazing, amazing agent. Mohammed is a very honest and trustworthy real estate agent. And in this industry, that's what you need for someone to give you that advice. So really appreciate it. And look forward to sending you more business for sure.
Likewise, likewise. And if I have anyone there, you already know I'm coming to you, Essen. So thank
I
you so
appreciate
much
it.
for everything. And
Yep,
thank you for having me on your podcast as well. It was
my
truly an
pleasure.
honor.
Yeah, and if you're ever in Toronto, just give me a shout. We'll grab a coffee or grab some dinner sometime.
Definitely. I'll be sure to bother you.
Sure. All right. Thank you for
Awesome.
listening. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Essen. Thanks, guys.